The first thing I remember about that morning wasn't the heat or the haze or even the faint smell of smoke drifting in from the canyons. It was the mirror. My reflection looked back at me under the soft vanity lights in my mother's rented Malibu villa, barefaced, hair in a messy bun, wearing a faded hoodie I'd owned since middle school. Behind me, the room buzzed with activity: ring lights, tripods, makeup crates, and a dozen girls with perfect teeth and matching white robes. My mother, Vanessa Flores, known to 500,000 people online as Vanessa Vibes, floated between them like the queen bee of a hive. She wore a silk robe the color of champagne and diamonds that winked every time she turned her head. Her skin glowed, her hair fell perfectly over her shoulders, not a single strand out of place. You'd never know we were only a 15-minute drive from a wildfire evacuation zone, or that, by the end of the day, I would be fighting for my life. "Arya, sweetie," my mom said without looking at me, "can you go downstairs and bring the green juice cooler up before the sunrise photo shoot?" I nodded automatically. I was 17 and used to being the girl behind the scenes, the one carrying things, charging batteries, running errands while my mother and my younger sister Luna chased camera angles and perfect lighting. My mother claimed it was character building. I always suspected it was just convenient to have someone she didn't have to pay. Luna appeared in the mirror beside me, blonde hair in a glossy ponytail, face full of makeup despite it being barely 6 a.m. "Try not to bring the wrong cooler this time," she said sweetly, sliding lip gloss across her mouth. "Yesterday's footage was basically unusable because someone mixed up the labels." Her little dig wasn't new. Luna was 16 and already exactly like my mother, criticism wrapped in sugar. "Sorry," I muttered, grabbing the keys. "Chin up, Arya," my mom chimed. "You'll be in the vlog today if you don't look too tired." She said that every time. And every time, the footage of me never made the final cut. I headed down the stairs, passing racks of flowing dresses, floating chiffon, and enough PR packages to fill a warehouse. Outside the windows, pink morning light brushed across the mountains, and a faint orange tint hovered over the horizon, eerier and darker than sunrise should ever look. A different kind of glow, a dangerous one. I paused at the window. A helicopter rumbled low over the ridge. Another emergency alert buzzed my phone from the county. "Extreme fire conditions, wind shift expected, monitor alerts." I showed it to my mother before I left. She waved it away. "We'll evacuate if we need to, Arya. Don't be dramatic." Drama, to my mother, was anything that interfered with content. I pushed open the garage door and grabbed the cooler, stuffing down the uneasiness prickling under my skin. If I had known that was the last moment before my life splintered, I would have stood there longer. I would have breathed slower. But life doesn't warn you before it breaks. Not in real life, only in stories, and this one was mine. People online always ask me the same question. "If your mom was such a bad parent, why didn't anyone notice?" I always say the same thing, because she made her life look perfect, and I didn't fit in the frame. Before everything happened, before courtrooms and emergency surgeries and guardianship papers with someone else's signature, I grew up in a house built for an influencer, not a family. A glass house. Literally, floor-to-ceiling windows. White furniture no one could actually sit on. Scented candles always burning through the day even if no one was home. A kitchen staged for photos but rarely for cooking. My mother wasn't always like that. When my dad was alive, she was warm. Funny, even. She used to braid my hair and take me to the farmer's market on Saturdays. We weren't rich, we were just normal. Then Dad died, and my mother split into two people. The one in front of the camera, glowing, grateful, perfect. And the one at home, sharp, tired, detached, and always looking past me instead of at me. People cope with grief differently. My mother coped by becoming someone else entirely. By the time I turned 12, she'd grown an online following. By 13, brand deals were rolling in. By 14, the kitchen was a set, not a place to eat. And by 15, Luna, my mother's new favorite project, was born. The golden child, the miracle baby, the daughter she'd always wanted. My mother claimed she loved us equally, but nothing about our house felt equal. Luna got a custom-designed nursery. I got relocated to the downstairs guest room so her filming studio could expand. Luna got new outfits for every holiday. I got hand-me-downs, as if our lives came with a budget she never mentioned on camera. Luna got birthday trips to Cabo. I got be helpful today, and someday you'll understand what this business requires. And on the days I felt myself disappearing completely, I crossed the sloping hill behind our house to the little weathered blue bungalow where Ellis Grant lived. Ellis wasn't related to me, not by blood, but he was the first person who ever saw me. He was 60-something, retired, soft-spoken, and always smelled faintly of coffee and turpentine from hours spent painting in his studio. His backyard was a riot of color: sunflowers, lavender, tomato vines climbing up rusted trellises. The first time I wandered over, I was 10. He was repairing a bicycle chain in his driveway. "You look like you've had a day," he said, not even turning around. I hadn't spoken. I hadn't cried. I had just stood there. But somehow he knew. He always knew. From then on, his place became my refuge, a place where nothing was curated or staged, where nobody told me to smile or fix my posture or help with lighting. He'd teach me to sketch, tell stories about his old students, and occasionally chain-smoke cloves on the back porch when he thought I wasn't watching. He wasn't a perfect man, but he was present. Present in a way my mother never was. Years later, when I woke up in a hospital bed to a new guardian written in black ink, it would be Ellis's name on the chart. But on that morning at the influencer retreat, I still thought I had a mother. Not a good one, but a mother. And I had no idea how quickly she was about to prove me wrong. By late afternoon, the heat outside had turned suffocating. The girls at the retreat kept filming transitions: robes to dresses, swimsuits to sundresses, fake laughter echoing over the pool. Meanwhile, the sky thickened to a color you only see in disaster movies. Gray, then orange, then a bruised, terrifying purple. Luna live-streamed the entire afternoon, spinning in her floral dress while smoke rolled behind her. "Isn't the sky crazy today?" she giggled to thousands of viewers. "It's giving apocalypse aesthetic." I checked the evacuation alerts again. "Be ready to leave. Fire approaching canyon. Wind shift in next 45 minutes. I showed my mother. Again, she snapped her fingers at the photographer instead. "Can we move the golden hour shots up? The smoke is ruining my lighting." Her voice wasn't cruel. It was careless. Careless in the way only someone who never feared consequences could be. By 6:13 p.m., embers were falling like ash-colored snow. Still, Vanessa refused to cancel the outdoor dinner shoot. "We're fine," she kept repeating. "Don't be dramatic. Fires never hit this part of Malibu." The thing about fires, they don't care about history. They don't care about promises. They don't care about influencers or villas or curated aesthetics. They just burn, and they move fast. I was carrying a box of ring lights back toward the garage when the wind changed. I heard the shift before I saw it, the deep, animal roar of a fire gaining speed down the canyon. My phone buzzed with a final alert. "Leave immediately." I ran to Vanessa. "We have to go, now." She rolled her eyes dramatically for the camera filming her, the camera she was still performing to. "Arya, stop, you're stressing everyone out." Behind her, the hills were on fire. Literally on fire. I didn't care if I looked dramatic anymore. I grabbed her arm. "Mom, I'm serious." She jerked away from me, annoyed. "Why can't you just be helpful for once? Go down to the lower garage and unplug the studio generator. We don't want a power surge ruining equipment." The last thing she said before she turned back to the cameras was, "Let the adults handle the real decisions." I never saw her face again that night. I ran to the garage. Smoke rolled under the door. A siren wailed far away. The sky outside the small windows glowed the color of hell. I reached the generator, coughing, my eyes burning. The floor shook. Somewhere above me, someone screamed. Glass shattered. The lights flickered once, twice, then everything went orange. Something exploded outside. The garage door buckled inward. A shelf toppled. Pain shot through my leg so sharp I thought I'd been stabbed. I hit the concrete. My head cracked against the floor. And as the world spun violently, as smoke filled my lungs, as firelight flickered along the ceiling, I realized no one was coming for me. Not my mother, not my sister, not any of the women drinking rosé on the cliffside. No one even knew I was gone. My chest tightened. My vision went dark at the edges. And just before everything slipped away, I heard a deep, distant rumble, not fire. Not an explosion. A helicopter, a rescue. But I didn't know that yet. I only knew one thing. I was going to die alone on a concrete floor, while my mother refreshed her comments section. The world didn't come back all at once. It returned in violent flashes. White lights, voices shouting, the metallic taste of blood sliding down my throat, the suffocating burn in my chest, as if I was still trapped under that collapsed shelf in the garage. I remember trying to inhale and nothing happening. I remember someone yelling, "She's crashing!" I remember hands on my face, cold metal at my jaw, straps tightening across my body. But the moment that cut through everything, the moment that would change the entire course of my life, was a voice. A calm one. A woman's, a nurse. "Arya, can you hear me? You were caught in the fire. You're at Coastal General Hospital. You're safe. We're going to take care of you." I wasn't safe, not even close. Someone slid something down my throat. A ventilator tube. Someone else said, "Her left leg is crushed, possible compartment syndrome. Burns across lateral torso. Smoke inhalation critical." I drifted again. When I resurfaced, it was to chaos, doctors shouting numbers that felt like code I wasn't supposed to understand. BP 90/50 dropping. "We need consent for surgery now. She won't make it to the hour without decompression and airway intervention." Consent. That word hit harder than the fire. Because I was 17, a minor, and they needed a parent to agree to save me. The nurse with kind eyes, her badge said RIVERA, held up my phone. "Her mother is listed first." Someone else muttered, "Good luck with that, she's an influencer at that wildfire retreat." They were all filming themselves evacuating. Nurse Rivera didn't listen. She hit FaceTime. It rang once, twice, 3 times. A familiar voice answered, but not familiar in a comforting way. More like familiar in the way a thorn is familiar, the kind of pain you get used to without ever actually healing. "Hello," my mother said, her voice airy and bright. Behind her, soft spa music played, not evacuation alarms, not chaos, spa music. I heard Luna's laugh in the background, the clink of glasses, the hum of chatter. They hadn't evacuated. They hadn't gone to safety. They had gone to a luxury hotel 30 minutes away. "Mrs. Flores," Nurse Rivera said, rotating the camera so my mother could see my blood-soaked face, the oxygen mask, the machines. "This is Coastal General Trauma. Your daughter Arya has been critically injured and requires emergency surgery. We need your verbal consent immediately." My mother peeled a gold under-eye patch off with the same irritation someone would use to remove lint from a sweater. "Oh, wow, what happened to her?" "She was caught in the wildfire collapse. She has severe burns, crush injuries, and possible internal bleeding. We need to take her into surgery right now or she could." I didn't hear the rest. Because my mother interrupted. Not with panic, not with fear, not even with a mother's instinct. She interrupted with annoyance. "Okay, but can this wait? I'm in the middle of a live stream and the hotel lighting is finally perfect. Also, Luna is doing a brand collab right now, so..." Nurse Rivera's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, she will not survive without immediate intervention." Then came the line I will never, ever forget. "If she survives, let me know. If she doesn't, well, there's nothing I can do about it from here. I can't drive back right now. I'm not getting on camera crying with mascara running. My followers would lose it." The trauma bay went silent, like the whole world inhaled at once. Even through the fog of pain, something inside me cracked. Cleanly, permanently. Then Luna leaned into the frame. "Is she actually that bad? Like dead? Should I post a prayer story? That usually gets really good engagement." She snapped a screenshot of my battered face and giggled. "My God," a doctor whispered. Another muttered, "Record this, for her protection." Nurse Rivera swallowed hard. Her voice softened. "Mrs. Flores, this is your daughter. We need consent, please." My mother sighed, like someone had asked her to move her drink to a different table. "Look, call her father. Oh, wait, he's dead. Right. Then call, I don't know, Ellis. The old man down the hill. He'll sign whatever you want. He loves that girl. Always has. I have to go." And without waiting for a response, she ended the call, just like that. Cut the cord between us as easily as tapping a screen. But she did leave something behind. A name. Ellis, my neighbor, my safe person. My I don't even know what. But in that moment, he became everything. Nurse Rivera scrolled my contacts with shaking fingers. Found him. She hit dial. The phone rang once. Then, is she alive? Ellis's voice demanded. No greeting, no hesitation, no fear, only raw urgency. Nurse Rivera answered. She needs emergency surgery. We need consent now. I'm already on the way, he said. I don't care what you need me to sign. I'll sign all of it. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask how she was. He didn't hesitate. He just chose me, without thought, without condition, without blood. The next seconds blurred again as my heart slowed. Machines screamed. Voices grew frantic. Someone pressed something into my IV. The last thing I heard before the world went black was Ellis's voice echoing through the phone. Hold on, kid, I'm coming. And somehow I did. When I surfaced again, the world was darker, quieter, slower, like I was floating underwater, hearing everything through layers of cotton. But even through the haze, one thing was constant, a voice, low, warm, familiar. You're doing good, kiddo. Nurses say your numbers are fighting their way back. You always were stubborn. I cracked my eyes open, barely a slit. A silhouette sat beside my bed in a hard plastic chair, head bowed, hands clasped. Ellis. His hair, usually combed neatly back, was wild. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes were rimmed red. He hadn't shaved. He hadn't slept. A tray of untouched coffee cups sat on the counter behind him. Post-it notes with little sketches, sunsets, flowers, my profile, covered the side of the monitor. He looked older, tired, broken open, but he was there. Nurse Rivera noticed me stirring. Ellis, she whispered, touching his shoulder. She's waking. He shot upright, blinking. Arya, he breathed, leaning in. His voice cracked on my name. I felt something wet hit my arm, a tear, his. I wanted to speak, but something thick sat in my throat. A tube. I panicked. He noticed immediately. Hey, don't fight it, he soothed, his hand cupping the side of my head carefully. You're intubated. It's helping you breathe. You're safe. Safe. Safe was a foreign word, one I hadn't felt in years. I couldn't talk, so he reached for the dry erase board at the foot of my bed and held it where I could see it. The words were written in bold black marker. Legal guardian. ELLIS Grant, not Vanessa. Not the woman who gave birth to me. Not the woman who left me to burn. Ellis. A man who shared nothing with me except a fence line. Confusion swirled inside me. Fear. Gratitude. Sadness. Relief so sharp it hurt. Nurse Rivera touched my shoulder gently. Your mom refused consent, she said softly. Ellis stepped in and signed everything. He hasn't left since the surgery started. Ellis exhaled shakily. Didn't plan on leaving either. I blinked hard, tears sliding sideways into my hair. He caught them with gentle fingers. Let it out, he whispered. You don't have to be tough right now. But I'd been tough for so long I didn't know how to stop. Nurse Rivera adjusted a monitor. She's stable, Ellis. You got here in time. His jaw clenched. I should have been there sooner. It wasn't guilt. It was love, heavy, protective, unasked for, but freely given. He reached for my hand. Your mom's gone, he murmured. Checked into a hotel after the fire. She didn't come here, not once. I closed my eyes, not because it hurt, because it didn't surprise me, not anymore. Ellis kept talking softly, stories, memories, a cascade of warm sound that kept me anchored. He told me the fire had overtaken the villa, that a firefighter found me unconscious under collapsed shelving, that the miracle wasn't the helicopter, it was that I was still breathing at all. And he told me something else, something I didn't expect. My old student, Maya, she's a lawyer now. She filed emergency guardianship papers and a neglect suit. The hospital backed it. Everyone saw the recording. The FaceTime call. My mother's words, her refusal, her cruelty, her abandonment broadcast through a screen. I felt numb. But behind my numbness was something new, something steady, something like a foundation. Ellis leaned closer. You don't have to go back to her, he whispered. Not now, not ever if you don't want to. The tears that came then were different. Not grief, not pain, something softer, warmer, the kind of crying that feels like thawing. For the first time in my life, someone wasn't enduring me. They were choosing me. And that choice saved my life. 6 weeks after the fire, I could finally stand long enough to shuffle across a room on a walker. 8 weeks after, I could sit up without vomiting. 10 weeks after, I could speak more than a few minutes without my lungs seizing. But the court date came whether I was ready or not. The courtroom smelled like old wood and disinfectant. Ellis stood behind me, one hand hovering just above my back, not touching, just there in case I needed him. Maya, his former student-turned-attorney, stood at our table in a navy suit, expression sharp as glass. Across the aisle sat my mother, Vanessa Flores. Her hair was pulled into a sleek bun. Her makeup was heavy but carefully neutral, an attempt at appearing somber. Her eyes were puffy, though whether from crying or lack of sleep, I couldn't say. Luna was beside her, scrolling her phone until a bailiff snapped at her. They looked nothing like the glamorous duo from their posts. No filters, no ring lights, no perfect lighting. Just two people finally forced to exist in reality. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and glasses she didn't need but wore anyway, took her seat. "Let's begin," and Maya did. She began with the recording. The FaceTime call played across the courtroom speakers, crackly but unmistakable. My mother's voice, her casual cruelty, her refusal, her prioritizing a live stream over my life. The courtroom didn't breathe. When Luna's giggle played through the speakers, her "should I post a prayer" story, the judge's face froze into something colder than stone. Vanessa's lawyer stood and sputtered excuses. She was disoriented from smoke. She didn't understand the urgency. She was traumatized. She thought Arya was stable. The judge held up a single finger. "Stop." The lawyer fell silent. The judge looked at me, right at me. "Miss Flores," she said gently, "do you want to speak?" I hadn't planned to, but when I opened my mouth, the words spilled out like they'd been waiting. "I know what happened in that call," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "And I know it wasn't a mistake." Vanessa flinched. I continued. "She didn't forget me, she didn't panic, she didn't freeze, she chose. She chose her career. She chose her image. She chose not to come." A tear rolled down my cheek. "Ellis, he came without question. He signed the papers. He sat by my bed for weeks. He fought for me. She didn't." I swallowed hard. I don't want her money, I don't want her apologies, I just want this to be over, and I want to stay with the person who showed up. The room was silent. Then the judge spoke. Decision rendered. Termination of parental rights for Vanessa Flores. Permanent guardianship, she looked at Ellis, and adoption rights granted to Mr. Ellis Grant. My mother gasped. Luna's eyes widened, finally off her phone. "But Ellis," he exhaled. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I saw him smile. A real smile. Soft, relieved, hopeful. The judge continued. "Furthermore, damages awarded for emotional distress and medical neglect. Miss Flores, you may appeal, but based on evidence, I suggest you do not." The gavel cracked like thunder. It was over. No, not over. It was the beginning. The beginning of a life where I wasn't a prop, wasn't a background character, wasn't invisible. Where someone chose me every day without condition. A life where I became Arya Grant. And for the first time, that felt like freedom. The next months were slow, but they were living. Not surviving, living. Ellis's house smelled like paint thinner and coffee. Every window was open to the ocean air. My new room used to be his storage space, so it smelled like turpentine and dust the first few nights. By week 2, he had scrubbed and repainted it himself, pale yellow. He said the color matched sunlight and that I needed more of that. I didn't have a mother anymore, but I had something better. A home that didn't demand perfection to deserve love. Rehab was brutal. Each step felt like dragging a mountain uphill, but Ellis never once let me quit. He'd drive me to physical therapy at dawn, humming to old Johnny Cash songs the whole way, and wait outside the door for hours until I came out trembling and drenched in sweat. He never said, "You can do it," in that empty motivational way people do. He'd just say, "We've done harder things, kid," and hand me a water bottle. And somehow that meant more. Some nights we'd sit on the porch, the air filled with salt and quiet, and I'd tell him the truth. About how invisible I'd felt all my life. About the guilt that came with still loving someone who abandoned me. He'd listen without fixing it. "Love doesn't disappear just because it wasn't returned," he told me once. "It just changes shape." Those words stayed with me. Meanwhile, my mother's world caught fire for the second time. The audio of her hospital call leaked online. A nurse posted it anonymously, saying, I can't watch this woman pretend she's a victim when she said this about her own child. It went viral overnight. The headline on every gossip blog read, "Influencer mom abandons daughter during wildfire." Sponsors vanished. Brand deals dissolved. Even Luna's small modeling offers disappeared. Their world of filters and captions collapsed under something my world had never had before: truth. I never gloated. I just didn't look, didn't search their names, didn't need to. My world was small, quiet, real. Mornings smelled like burnt toast and strong coffee. Afternoons smelled like acrylic paint and ocean air. Nights sounded like old records playing softly through the walls. One evening, Ellis said, "You're walking better." I was. The limp was nearly gone, the scars were fading, the nightmares weren't, but I was learning to breathe again. "Think you'll paint again?" he asked. "I don't know what to paint," I said. He smiled. "Start with what hurts." So I did. And for the first time, the pain didn't own me. It became something else. A story, a color, a piece of art that wasn't pretty, but it was true. 5 years later, the house still smells like paint and salt air. Ellis turned 73 last month. He still insists on mowing the lawn himself, even though the mower rattles like it's older than both of us. He says the noise keeps the birds humble. I just roll my eyes and hand him lemonade. I finished my degree last spring, art therapy. Now I work at a community center downtown, teaching art to kids who have seen too much too young. Foster homes, accidents, fires. Kids who think no one will ever pick them. And I get to tell them that they're wrong, because someone picked me. Every morning before work, I stand in front of the framed paper above the mantel. Adoption certificate, Aria grant. The ink has faded a little, but the feeling hasn't. It still knocks the air out of me every time I see it. Sometimes people ask if I ever forgave my mother. The truth is, forgiveness stopped being the goal. She reached out once, an email full of apologies and explanations and justifications. I never replied. Not out of hate, just peace. Some stories don't need sequels. Some endings are meant to stay closed. Luna has her own small page online now, posts mostly travel photos. No comments allowed. Sometimes I see them by accident and I don't feel anything. Not anger, not sadness, just distance. Because I finally understand what Ellis meant when he said love changes shape. It did. It became this. Our porch at sunset. The smell of sea salt and fried shrimp. Paint-stained fingers on a chipped mug. A man who isn't my father, but somehow became everything a father should be. He still calls me kid. Still tells me I drive too fast. Still leaves post-it doodles on my fridge. And every year on the anniversary of the fire, we light one candle, not for loss, but for survival. He says it's to remind us how far we've come. I think it's to remind me who stayed when everyone else walked away. If you're still listening, maybe you've lived some version of this story. Maybe you've watched the people who were supposed to protect you choose their own comfort instead. Maybe you've wondered if that means you were never worth choosing. You were. You are. Family isn't who gave you life. Family is who fought for it when it was about to be taken. And when I see those kids in my art room, paint on their cheeks, laughter too loud, heart still heavy, I tell them the same thing Ellis told me the day he signed those papers. Blood makes you related, loyalty makes you family, and love, the real kind, never asks for proof. That's the truth I carry, and that's my story.